In this demonstration, we're going to take a look at a new joiner process in SAP. The process begins with a new joiner e-form triggered from the Fiori launchpad. In fact, we can trigger this from anywhere because it's only a URL hyperlink. But in the future, the launchpad will become SAP's standard portal for many business processes that are outside SAP GUI. Before we see the new joiner e-form, we are directed to a selection screen so that we can identify a vacant position. With many e-forms, there is no need for this intermediate step, but HCM processes are much more elegant if the HR object is selected before the e-form is rendered, so that we can pre-populate and tailor the e-form. So we select an organizational unit and then a vacant position, and then trigger the e-form. When the e-form is presented, you can see that this is an HTML e-form. At the top of the screen we see some tabs. These allow the user to view or add attachments as required and to see the history of this e-form. The styling we see is based on style sheets, so it can look like anything and fit in with corporate branding. Walking down this e-form we see a number of sections. We have a read-only section at the top for the initiator details. This shows that user Jeff Thompson has initiated the e-form. The form ID is a crucial concept of FLM. We use this to track each form as a document in its own right. This means we can report on status and history even down to field level using the form ID. There's no sense that the form is front-ending an SAP transaction. Instead, it is collecting and validating data and then deciding what to do next. We see a candidate section where we can add a candidate number and a hiring reason. We see starter information for the name, date of birth, etc. We see drop-down lists with selection options from SAP. We see that each section is collapsible for easy navigation. Scrolling down, we see the mailing address, information about the post and the job offer. The org unit, cost center, job and position fields have all been derived from the position we chose earlier. So you can see we could fill all these fields manually, but also we want to be able to fill some information from an e-recruitment system using that candidate number. When I enter a candidate number, then a lot of fields are pulled into the e-form. This uses a web service call to pull in the starter information and the mailing address section. Now I'll add some data to the rest of the e-form. You can see that a lot of fields are mandatory, so I can't submit this form without putting something in those fields. Plus, there is validation logic on many of the fields, so for example, I can't add negative quantities or more than 5 working days. Now I add data about the post, including the grade and the salary. Then I add more detail, including notice period, working hours and place of work. At the bottom of the e-form we have an action field with dynamically determined options. Here we can submit, save as draft or delete. Finally, we submit our data and we get a message that the e-form is successfully stored inside SAP. At this stage in the process, the e-form triggers a couple of notification emails to the derived approvers. When we open the email, we can see the data from the e-form passed into the email, along with images, links and styling. The approver can open the e-form simply by clicking on the link in the email. Now we see that all the fields are locked down except for the comment section. Here the budget holder simply approves the e-form and again we get a success message. We have just built a single approval step for this demo, but a form process could of course have multiple approval steps as required. At this stage an email is generated and sent to the candidate, and we can see this in my email client. Again, we can see some e-form data within the body of the email, and this time we see some attachments. It's a professional quality email that is going to look great on lots of email clients and mobile devices. So let's take a look at the attachments: offer letter, pension form and bank details form. The offer letter has been generated using a letter template and substituting data from the e-form. Here we see the name and address, salary, candidate number. It includes branding like logos at the top and graphics like the signature at the bottom. Although there are options for electronically signing the letter, in this scenario we're going to expect the new employees to print and sign the contract and then send it back by post or scan it and email it back. When we open the pension form, we can see that this is another PDF attachment. This is a print form that the employees can print and fill after they accept the post. Turning to the bank details form, you can see that some fields have already been pre-populated with data from the new joiner e-form. We'll just close this for now and return to it later. Let us now imagine that the HR team has received back the signed offer letter. They can access the e-forms through a shared inbox. We are using the FLM Form Manager for this step. Here we see only one e-form in the inbox, so we can open it up by selecting it. Again, the fields are locked down. What we can do at this stage is to add the signed offer letter that has been scanned to the e-form using the Attachments tab. We can now also see that the form history has been captured. When we return to the form and scroll down to the bottom, we have two possible actions: confirm or cancel. We choose cancel if the candidate chose not to accept the post. Right now we'll simply confirm it. And so now we are ready to trigger the SAP HR update, which is performed automatically. We should have a new employee master record in SAP HR linked to the position. Plus, a confirmation email is sent to the initiator, so I can open that. In the body of the email, we see some data as before, and we also see the new employee number created. So we can copy that employee number and go and take a look. We've created 4 input types for this employee record. If we look at the personal data, for example, we can see data from the e-form. We've only done the first 4 info type updates for this demonstration, but of course in real life there could be many more. And that should be it, the end-to-end process for the new joiner, but actually we haven't finished yet. Now what we can also do is to save the signed offer letter to this employee master record using the global object services. So not only have we updated the employee master with the form data, but we've also added in the form attachment. Plus I did promise to return to that bank details form, so I'll reopen that now. This is an offline PDF form that can be submitted back to SAP. We have the name and date fields pre-populated. The reference field is the ID of the parent e-form. When we add some details and submit this offline form, we see an email generated with a completed bank details form as an attachment. This eForm has no need to be routed for approval, so it can simply update SAP HR directly. So let's go and take a look. Immediately as we look at PA20, we see that the bank details information have been added. And if we display that bank detail, we see that the data has indeed been updated from the second form. And it doesn't have to stop there. We could have eForms triggered to the IT department to set up email addresses and SAP users. We could have notifications to payroll. We could trigger related eForms to facilities to set up a workspace or provide loan equipment, and everything always tracked inside SAP.